Buddy, welcome to the Brown I Love podcast. This is your host, Felix, and we have here our recurring, responsible, reckless, chaotic co-host, Andrew.
How's it going out there?
Nice. Let me preface this with today we have a special guest. I told him he is a friend. He's an artist. He's a creator. He's a great lover, I've been told. But most importantly, he's also a director, producer, and just a man out there trying to make the dream happen. Today, I'm very grateful and thankful for our guest, Nicholas Ferracamo. Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a long year. Long 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Well, Nick, let's indulge us a bit and tell us a little bit about where you're at right now. I'm in New Jersey, New York area. Andrew's in Ohio, and you're in Philly.
I'm in Philadelphia at this moment. Yes. I obviously met you guys in New York. Worked together. Went out and caused anarchy together. Then Andrew left because he sucks. Then realized I didn't want to be friends with him, and then I was up with Felix. Then I figured he sucked, and then I went to Philadelphia, and now I'm like, I suck.
It's full circle, man. Full circle.
Yeah, it goes all the way around, and I just want to get together with the people that I don't like you or the Andrew again.
You know, it's funny because I want to get together with you guys too, and I hate your fucking guts.
Yeah, that's I try to surround myself with people I don't like.
Let's dive into this genesis first, so people know.
Yeah, let's
who
get
we
to
are.
this baby boy Nick. Let's hear it. You want to start it off, Felix? Go. I think Felix, you got the lead in, right?
Yeah. Let me set this up. So, Nick, tell folks initially what brought you to New York City, and then before you get there, tell us where you're originally from.
Okay, so I grew up right outside Boston, in the suburbs of right outside Boston, like literally not too far off. And I was there for majority of my life. I lived, I think, 2 years. I lived 2 years in 2001 and 2002 in Florida with my cousins for like 2 years. Realized that wasn't for me. And then, but while I was doing that, I was basically like, I went to school for business. I realized that wasn't. When it came time to like finding a job, I was just like, I don't want to find a job. And I was like, well, this sucks. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I had to rethink it. And then I went to, and the thing was, like, all my friends that I went to school with, like, we all hung out, drank, and did all shenanigans. And I was just like, if I stay here, I'll never figure out what it is that drives me. So I moved to Florida, and I kind of went back to my roots in the like, what couple of things do I really interested in? Sports and, the human body. So I did like athletic training. And then the other thing I did when I was really young, I loved like acting and stuff like that. So, but I didn't know if I still was interested. I took a couple acting classes. I interned for the Brevard County Manatees, which was Washington's Nationals like single line team. And at one point I was just like, I gotta figure out what I want to do. And then I was just like, I have to make that choice. And I just fell absolutely in love with acting. So we're back to Massachusetts for 2 years, saved, tried to find a school. The school I decided was the Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. Auditioned, got accepted, moved to New York. Never been in New York City in my life, and just picked up and moved. Had no idea what I was going into. The day I drove up, I almost like drove right back. Because I drove up and I found an apartment by phone. So I was just like, I had no idea what like boroughs were good, what was nice, what was not nice. All I knew was like, if I'm near a subway system, then I should be okay. And this was back in 2007. Yeah. I was in Bushwick in 2007, which wasn't.
Oof,
Which
it's rough.
it was rough, but like the moment I went to the school, I absolutely loved it. It was everything I was looking for, and I stayed, and I was in New York for since 2007, basically.
What was the audition process like? I'm curious for folks that don't know like what it's like.
Well, the thing about that is like I really had no training. Like most people who do this when they were younger, and I was interested in it when I was younger, but like my parents didn't give a shit. They didn't care. So like it kind of like I had a couple of failures in auditioning when I was younger, and I just like, okay, I'm done. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm done. And it wasn't until like I got to that point where I wanted to do it again. Still hadn't had much experience at all. And they just tell you gotta learn the contemporary. You gotta learn a contemporary and classic monologue. The school visits different cities, actually goes all around the world, different countries as well, and just send me to audition, and I did. Having no idea how to break down a script or a scene or a monologue, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I did it, got accepted, and I was like, well, and the thing was like, that's the only place I auditioned. And I was like, if I get accepted, then it's gonna say something. I don't,
Yeah.
obviously I don't have any skill in the moving on. But I was like, fuck it. So I auditioned, I got in, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I still have the acceptance letter here because it was like a big moment. And then once you get in, you get 1 year, and then you have to like do at the end of the first year, you do plays basically. You have to do a couple of plays. You play smaller. You do like, what was it? Two plays? Two plays. Two exam plays, they call it. And they're usually one act. And you play a smaller part on one and you play a bigger part on the other. And basically all the teachers get together and they watch you and they decide, okay, are you good enough to go on the second year? And I got accepted into the second year. So I was just like, shit, like, I have something to offer. And like, I don't have, like, at that point, I'd never been in anything legit as an adult. So I had no idea. That was one of my favorite 2 years in New York City. I was piss broke, lived in a shoebox room, and I loved every absolute minute. So, yep.
Let me ask one thing. I think if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you did this? Well, you weren't like 21, fresh out of college, or 20.
So I was 28, almost 30.
Mm.
And
So
the thing
that
was,
says a
like,
lot.
I realized as an actor, a lot of the teachers, there was a couple of teachers there that were really, like, really good. And they, helped a lot of people. And one of them, and they all said kind of the same thing. Like, acting as an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old is not, they're usually not good. Like, they usually are not good at that point because they haven't had enough life experience to use when there's different scenes that they don't understand. You know what I'm saying? So if there's a scene that they just don't get, you kind of try to relate it to stuff that you've been through. But at 18, what have you been through? It was funny because one of the kids that graduated with me, which people know, he's a well-known actor now, he didn't even get into second year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wasn't great. He was the nicest kid in the world, awkward, but really young. I mean, he was straight out of high school. Didn't get into second year, and then he got into William Esper, which you don't have to audition to get into William Esper. It's a 2-year conservatory. You get in, you pay, you do 2 years. Here. And through that, he got into, and then he auditioned to get into Yale, and he got into Yale's drama program, which is huge. And then basically it was from there. But he, and the funny thing is like the Academy uses him, even though they didn't accept him back to second year, they like promote him as like, oh, he went to the Academy. Yeah, he went to the Academy and you guys didn't even like him. You guys, I mean, I'm talking about Mamadou App.
Right.
Who's been in a bunch of like, he was in the newest Jurassic Park. He's in Kind of Kindness, the new movie, plays a cop. So he's in a bunch of stuff, well known. He didn't even get into second year. And the reason I think he wasn't as good at that time was because he was literally graduated high school. So by the time he went to Yale, he was closer to like maybe what, 21, 22.
Mm.
So, I mean, by the time he got done with Yale, that was like a 3 to 4 year program. He was, in his late 20s, has had experience. So, but yeah, I was older when I went there. I was actually one of the oldest one in my class, maybe. Think so. But yeah,
I feel like that gives you a little bit of an edge, and I think you said it so well that like, how is it with these other kids that have no experience? Do they just fake the funk? Is that what it's like? Like, because how can you? I guess you just got to pull to something,
well,
right?
yeah, you gotta pull. Like sometimes you gotta pull, or you gotta try to get yourself in that person's shoes and figure out what would this be like. Because everybody, again, we're all human.
Right.
Even to like the craziest people down to like the normal people. When you feel a certain way, you've done something. Everybody has a potential to be a serial killer. Everybody has a potential to do something like that. Feeling that way, it's just it's the human condition. You just got to figure out what that would take to get you there, and what that would mean, and feeling and everything like that. Like just because you can never see yourself being a serial killer doesn't mean you couldn't actually be one. If you had that upbringing or grew up that way or whatever it was that got him to that situation, everybody has the ability to do it because they exist and they're human beings. It's not like they're aliens. And that's the thing. You got to try to like find that way to get to that point.
Would you say that pivotal moment that you mentioned of getting accepted into the program was it? That was your moment, right? You knew immediately after that, like I'm diving in. That's it. I'm diving in, and if it wasn't for that moment, do you think you still would have pursued it?
No.
Wow.
My thing was if I didn't get accepted at the first auditioning, it was a sign. And then if I didn't get called back for the second year, it was a sign.
Wow.
But both signs, and the thing is like I know my ability. I know what I can do. The problem is once you get to a certain point where you're just auditioning a lot of the time, you're auditioning more than you're actually doing stuff. And I feel like that's why you have to keep taking classes and stuff, which can get expensive, but like it's a skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. And when I was auditioning before like COVID happened and everything else, I mean, everything was, you had to hit the pavement. I was doing 2-3 auditions a day, walking here, walking there. And like, I was getting good at auditioning. I was getting really good at auditioning. And then I stopped for a little bit and it's like backtracking. You gotta keep doing it. It's an art where you just gotta keep finding ways to do it just to help, like to keep that oil greased and to keep those gears running. Because if you don't, then you can still get back into it. It's a lot harder to try to get to that point.
And just to clarify, you're not a trust fund baby, right?
No.
Okay.
But Felix, if you want a kid, you can adopt me and give me everything I want.
Dude, I can't afford you, man.
Well, you got another kid to afford, but
Yeah.
You can have a boy and a girl.
If I adopt you, I gotta dress you the way I want you to.
That's fine. As long as you pay for everything I want to do.
Oh man, let me toss it back to
it works. It works both ways, Felix. It's for you to get used to what it's going to be like when your daughter gets older.
Right. Listen, it'll be the role of a lifetime, all right? Full method. Andrew, let me toss it back to you.
Well, I don't know, Nick. I was just noticing the similarities in how we got to the city. I think we both kind of just decided to, well, hey, if this is going to happen right now, that's the decision. It means something, and we get there. After you got there, I heard you were talking about Bushwick and 2007 and how it was rough or anything like that. But when did you feel that it started getting, I don't know, maybe not easier, but more comfortable?
I mean, the moment the academy was the one that did it for me because like that's what I was there to do. I didn't care living in New York, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do theater. I wanted to learn the process. I wanted to be like just involved in the art and learn and grow and just experience it. And that's exactly what the school did. That's why I loved it. I mean, the school is the greatest because you get to actually do the craft without worrying about the business aspect. I would stay in school, acting school, theater school forever, because you can actually just get the focus on the craft. You don't have to worry about like auditioning or getting, when's my next part, and stuff like that. It's just constant, just working on your craft all day long, and it's just, and that's what I love, absolutely love, absolutely loved. It was amazing, and I would do it again. And like when I want to still take classes. I took more classes at T. Schreiber, which was really good with Peter Jensen. He's a really good teacher. Um, and then I'm thinking about going to the Barrow Group and then taking, because they have like a summer course or a 2-year extensive thing, which is pretty cost effective, which is pretty good. So, but like
And
you gotta keep doing.
when did you start getting more interested in getting behind the camera? I hear you. You've been working on something for a while now. I think maybe we'd all like to hear about it.
So the funny thing was I kind of knew. So I kind of knew that one. If you ask me, I was way ahead of the curve because when I graduated and I started auditioning, and they're telling me you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to audition for commercial work, you need to audition, you gotta take whatever you want, you gotta take whatever it takes, like whatever you audition for everything, and take anything that comes your way. Never say no. And I'm like, okay, but that's not why I got into this art. Just to do it. Like to do a commercial, that doesn't mean absolutely anything, just to get paycheck or take everything that comes your way. I did it because it meant something for me. And I realized, I was just like, you know what? I was like, I don't mind doing that if I'm still being able to do the stuff that I wanted. Because when you audition, you maybe get, you might audition for 10 things and maybe 3 out of those 10 things are actually good or something that speak to you or something that you really care about. The rest of the stuff is like, I just need work. And I fit this character that's listed here and I can play it. So very early on, I was just like, I need to figure out how to do stuff that I wanted to do. So I started my second year at the academy writing my first screenplay. Never written anything before, never had any idea how to do it. And I did it. I just did it. I just said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And it was long. It was terrible. It wasn't even in the right format. Nothing was correct about it, but I did it. And, yeah. And over the years, I've, talked to different people, had people read it, get it, dwindle it down, and then learn how to write it, how to write a script, how do you write action, how do you write dialogue, what's good dialogue, what's bad dialogue. The only thing that I had going for me was when anybody read it was it's very natural. I could write whatever, I could make it sound natural. It wasn't forced. But even so, when I first wrote, there was times where it was just you're just explaining shit. You're not actually writing as somebody's watching. You're explaining what's going on instead of just writing what's happening or what these characters are saying. And you learn. You just learn from doing. It's like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to actually do it first. And that's the scary thing, especially if you've never done it. So, I mean, again, once I did that, I worked with a director on a couple of shorts. He cast me in 2 of his shorts. We worked really well together. He was a good director, let the actors go wherever they needed to go, trusted me. He was very organized. And then we decided to start our own production company, Cinema Veritas Productions. And we're like, well, if we want to grow this production company, with shorts, you really can't make any money. You're doing it because you want to make this story, you want to create something, you want to do something, you want to show people what you can do, you want to get it out there for people to watch. Shorts are cost effective And they could, and people could see your work and be like, well, what are you up to, whatever. So you do shorts, but you don't go into a short ever thinking you're going to make any money. So we were like, okay, well, this feature that I wrote, it has a very specific audience. It has the ability to get money because of the content of what the story is about. So we're like, there's not a lot of like CGI or special effects or anything. It's very, drama, family driven drama. And I was like, this will be our first feature. And if we can get this made, and maybe if we can make money, or at least make this be successful and people can see what we can do, we can just roll on top of it. Maybe write something different and next and just keep going and going and going. What I had found out through that, though, is how hard it is to make your first feature film. It is insanely hard. But if you just keep working at it and, talking to people, networking, figuring out how to do it, it's possible. It's not for the faint of heart, let me tell you.
What would you say, if you don't mind me jumping in, Andrew, was the best thing about getting that project off the ground, and the worst thing?
Well, for me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really on the ground. It's still in the ground, buried. But the funny thing is about it is what I've realized. I mean, through this process, it's been a long time. We started the company in 2014 with this idea of making this feature, and it's 10 years later, and it's still not made. Now, talked to so many people. Many people read the script and multiple readings and this, and the script has changed. At this point, I cannot write anything else. That script is whatever it is. The last try to edits I've done, I've exhausted everything I've had to make this script. I cannot do. There's nothing left in me, and I've done over. And I'm not even kidding you. I've done close to 100 edits to this script. Now, half of it is because the very first one was terrible. But still, you're looking at, when you do a feature, even if the first edit, the first write is still pretty decent, you're still probably going to look at anywhere between 30 to 50 edits. This one was just long because it was my very first one. The first one was so terrible. But every time, I think we got momentum and we're pushing and trying to find money and find ways to get it funded. It doesn't happen, and then I'm just like, it's dead. It's dead, it's gone, it's dead. And then something happens where it's just like, there's life still left in it. I can't believe it. And then you find this avenue, and you're like, okay, let's go this avenue, let's find it, and then it dies, and nothing happens. And you're just like, okay, it's dead. And right now, we're at the best chance to make this film. And the weird thing that I just kind of was at one point was just like, well, I'm just gonna... It just happened. And once it starts to roll, it's this weird thing that I've talked to many people, like my new producers and directors. It's like, once it starts rolling, it comes a lot easier. It has its own momentum. When you're not pushing for it, it's funny. All of a sudden, you're out there, you're promoting it, you're talking about it, and then all of a sudden, it'll just it its own momentum, and it just has its own trajectory towards whatever it's going to be. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but at this point in the process, I feel like it's on its own. I can't do anything more to promote it. It's either going to get made or not. It's got its own trajectory, and everybody's involved is they feel like this is going to get made, but we're I've done it so many times, I can't really sit there and say, yeah, it is. But at the same time, I really believe it has the ability to get made. So the industry's messed up as well too. The industry's just a corruption, how this finished.
Well, given that you've been in the gauntlet, I mean, I can relate. I understand the long process there. I mean, I guess I'm being hopeful here, but or maybe naive or both. But there have been plenty of films and first films that took longer than 3 years, longer than 5 years to get made. So I think that you're right on track. Frankly, I mean, if you say you're hitting it right now, I can tell you're not necessarily worried, but you're not necessarily so hopeful about the whole thing, but it feels like you're so much closer now.
I think I've accepted the fact because before, and I've talked to you, Andrew, about it, before I was so like this, it's gotta, how do I make this? This gotta get made, it's gotta get done. Like, how do I do it? What do I do? And at this point, I'm like, it is what it is. Like I get other ideas. You do it. You try to get it made. I mean, that's the whole point of creating plays or films is to get it made. You got to try to get it made some way. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. If you make it on a shoestring budget, make it on a shoestring budget. Who cares? The whole point is getting it made. And not saying we couldn't, because we certainly hell could. And that's a possibility. My thing is I am so poor that even on a shoestring budget, I would still need to get money somehow, which means that I would have to try to get that money back. Which is the crux of the whole thing. So, the film industry, everybody sees it get made, everybody sees the studios, they see $3 million movies, an independent movie. It's all about, it's a business first, it's an art form second. The funny thing is, the art is what makes it as a business succeed. But talking to investors, pitching investors, talking to the investors, they want to know the story, they want to know the art, they want to know the creation of it. But in the end, they decide to do it or not do it based a lot on, does this have a chance to make money? Or at least get my money back? Which means you as the artist have to take things into consideration. Is this a type of film that people are going to want to watch? Not is this like, again, once you get to a certain point in your career where you had a couple of successful films, then you can take chances, because all of a sudden it's like, well, people are willing to take chances because of your ability to be successful. But when you first start out, you got to show that you can do something first. And that's the hardest thing is convincing, or I want to say convincing. I don't want having people believe in you. It's hard, it's extremely hard. But that's the whole point.
Would you say that part of this experience in this journey in your filmmaking, in your directing, or in your producing, that the business aspect was the hardest part? Because you're this artist, you're this creator, and then you come at a crossroads with the film industry, right? And then what is that like? Does that break people in the process? Because you have this vision and this project that you want to get off the ground, and then you realize, oh shit, there's the industry that I have to learn, navigate, fight with in some instances. What could you say in your experience to those that haven't had that opportunity, or that are in that same place right now, maybe? What does it say about the industry? I'm just curious.
So, when you first go in, you're naive. You're like, I got a good idea. I believe in my abilities. Somebody's going to see my ability go. What I've come to realize, even as an actor, there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of talent. There is. There is other aspects of getting something done or getting cast in something that is beyond your control. Whether it be luck, whether it be good timing, whatever it is, there's other aspects of it. And and the funny thing is, as somebody in the business, you're trying to control that. And I think that's where the whole getting frustration and getting stressed out is, because you try to control the things you have no control of. So eventually you just gotta let that go and just kind of focus on what is this? What does it need to be? Is this, and just focus on getting it done. And if it can get done, but don't hang everything you have on it. The one thing I've learned is you always think, and I try to fight this idea all the time because I think it's total horseshit, but it's ingrained in all of us and it's human. And there's a play that I read that talks about this too, and I can't remember the name of it. But it's just like, my life hasn't started. The idea of like, once this film is made and I get to this point, that's when my real life that I envision is starting. So I am just gonna keep my head down and keep pushing toward that life. In the meantime, the rest of this shit doesn't. I'm not taking this in. I'm just like gonna get to that point, and then my life will start. When I get to this point in my career and making film, and this is what I'm doing for a living, my life will start then. I am going to be 46 at the end of this year. If I keep thinking like that, I'm going to be who knows how long, and then I'm going to look back and say, what the fuck? I wasted my time. Like, I was waiting to be somewhere in my life, when really what it was just be in it. And enjoy whether making this or not making this. So fight for it, but don't like put everything you are hung on whether this gets made or not. You know, it's such a and actors do that. And so many people in this business are like, you know, when I can do this, that's when I'll start to live the life that I want. But to be honest with you, I get to still make films. Like, who gives a shit? I'm doing stuff. I find ways to do it, and I make films, and I'll make plays, and I'll be audition for plays, I'll be casting plays and casting them, and I'm still doing it, regardless whether I'm making a lot of money or people recognize me or whatever it is you're trying to get. I'm still doing it, and I think that's instead of trying to be somewhere, I just am. Instead of trying to get somewhere, because everybody's trying to get somewhere. And what happens if you don't get there? Does that mean you're a failure? Does that mean your life has been a failure? No. How many people can say they, have a short in film festivals? How many people can say they're trying to get a feature and that's a chance to get in? How many people can say they've been in a play, created a play, blah, blah, blah? You got to look at those things and realize that you've accomplished stuff even though you feel like you've accomplished nothing.
I feel like that's really sobering advice to a lot of people, and not just the folks that are in film, but I feel like that's just advice you could apply to anywhere, right? Because I think, what I'm hearing is that you're an artist at the core. You don't let the business destroy you, break you down. You don't let the business define you. You make, you create, and it is yours, and you still own it, and then you still continue creating. You don't let outside things kind of define whether it's a success or whether it's not. You just make it and you move on and you make other projects. And I think that's like so useful and so real that I think, and nowadays it's always like folks BS you, right? They give you like, oh yeah, keep dreaming, keep doing this. And then you're 50 and 60 and you've just hung on to one project and it may never finish or come to fruition, right? Like you got to just keep doing what you love doing. You can't let it be defined by other people that probably have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
No, it's in a lot of things. Like, again, it's very much that idea of like I'll be where I want to be in life once I get paid every day to make a film or to do whatever. And it's like, but if you think about it, like, you're still making film. Making money isn't. Yes, it can be stressful not having a lot of money or do whatever else, but like, you can find a way to make money. If you can find a way to make money and do that, regardless of whether that's what you do to make money, it doesn't matter. You still did something. Like and on those things like films or whatever you do is gonna live forever if you get it done. Like, if you write stuff, get it published. It's going to be there forever. People are going to read it. People can read this. You are, whatever you put into something as an artist, Andrew, when you write something, you're putting a little bit of who you are in that. Mm-hmm. And if that ever gets made or gets published or gets put on stage, a piece of you will always live within that piece, regardless.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about letting go and moving forward with everything that's important. I think, we live in such an age-oriented, society, I guess, or way of living, right? So, if you reach a certain age, you can't be whatever. If I listened to someone who wasn't very supportive of me a long time ago, I'd be I'd try to be a firefighter. You're right. I wouldn't still be writing right now. Just like, I think that's the biggest thing that maybe is important that you're getting across. That it isn't the age that is a red line, and I think that we do put too much focus on that.
But
I think, yeah,
there should be no red line. That's what I'm saying. Like, you shouldn't
yeah,
ever. There should never be a finish line. Like,
hmm
if you look at some of the best actors or directors, or whatever, they don't like the retirement age is 65. Most of these guys are doing it till their 80s until they die. Just because, like, and there should never be a like, if you're really doing this and you really love what you do, and this is a passion, whether it be something you get paid for or not. I can't, like, a lot of people that I know that I went through the academy just like stopped acting and stopped doing it, and I'm like, how did you do that? Like, I knew this is what I wanted, my passion and what I wanted to do regardless. How do you just stop it? Did you expect to be somewhere? Because, like, maybe I might not do this as making money, but I will never stop making film. I will never stop being in the art at all. I will do that until the day I die, which I think gives me the most joy. As long like I think what scares me most is just stop it. Like, stop doing it. There's no finish line. The finish line is when you die. Then you finished. Then you're done. But before that, like, don't ever stop. Don't ever stop.
so
I think this society focuses so much on, like, goals. Like, you have to get to this point. You have to be here. You have to get here. It's like, why? Explain to me why? What does that do? Like, my goals aren't, your goal can be, I want to write a book. Just write it. That's a goal. And if you do it, great. You need to sit there and go to the point where it's just like, yeah, I need to be a famous writer, or I need to, no. Just write a book. Like, that's it. We're so focused on, like, we need to get to this level of goals or somewhere. And it's been the hardest thing in my life to get rid of that idea, of being successful. Like, explain to me what success is. That everybody, like, or is it money? Or is it just like, I love my life. I like what I do.
Yeah, no, and I think you raise a great point because the- you have to find meaning in what you do, I think, and you can't come from like they call this like I'm blanking out on the word, but a scarcity mindset, right? You're like, I don't have this, so therefore I'm not good enough until I have that, and I think like when you come from that place, you're always going to be filling this void consistently, right?
Yep.
Because if it's not one level, it's another level, it's another
Yep.
level. So that's great advice, man, because like I get stuck in that trap too. I'm like, all right, I'm here. Is this what I want to do? Am I where I need to be? So,
Yeah, but where are we all going?
right, exactly.
Where the fuck are we all going?
Yeah, yeah.
Where are we trying? Like, if you're saying, like, I want to be in Washington the state, yeah, we're going. You want to go somewhere? I get it.
Yeah.
But in, like, the philosophy of, like, where are we all trying to get to? Like, we all end up in the same spot. Like, that's what we have to, like, let go of, is where are we going? Stop saying where are we going and just be where we are.
Look at Nick the poet, dude. Look at you.
Nick,
Wow.
Nick, the philosopher here.
Wow.
Felix, if you don't mind, I had a few more questions, and then maybe we could. Well, I thought we had something else coming up, but Nick, I do have some questions based on what you've been talking about right now, and a couple questions that I had planned.
Okay.
So like the one that I had planned, I'm going to try to figure out a different way of posing it, but I'm just curious, like if you can think back to, you know, you're 15, you're 20. Um, I guess I'm just curious about like that. What do you think it was that really got you here now? What do you think it was that inspired you to be going, to keep going, to be Nick now? Nick, the filmmaker, actor, writer,
So,
and guy who's moving back to New York.
so there's a couple of moments in my life where I'd have to say there's two moments. One particularly. One was the biggest moment that made me change who I was immensely. So I had, I don't know, this might seem stupid, but I had like a girlfriend through 8th grade and all through my high school and through most of my college years. You know, and we were like voted the most likely to get married, whatever. And the funny as it is like when not saying like this is anybody's fault or it's because of women, but like when I started getting into girls, I kind of stopped anything that I actually was interested in. It was just girls, straight girls. I didn't give a shit about anything else except girls, you know. And then I, dated this girl in high school, and I was a terrible fucking boyfriend in high school. I was jealous, just like a fucking asshole. I had to get stitches one time because I think I punched something. Because I thought she was like, I don't know, with like dating some guy, or like interested, some guy flirting with her. It was the stupidest thing. It was in college, in like freshman or something in college.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was at a party, and I was just like, I drinking with this other chick. I was like, I might want to cheat on my girlfriend. But I was just like, I don't cheat. I don't do that. So I was like, this must be like, I need to break it off. So I did. I broke it off, and then a couple months went by, and I was partying, drinking, messing around a little bit. And I realized one thing. I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not. You get a couple of moments, like when you're drinking and partying, like it's great, but then you look back at those moments, those peaceful moments when you're not doing any of that, and you're like, what do I have in my life that is like that drives me? It wasn't school, because at that point I was doing business. Didn't give a shit about that. I couldn't even tell you the classes I had at 1.0, I think, at home. It wasn't classes. It wasn't anything. And then I realized, really, the thing that kept me going was her. So I went back to her, and I was just like, I'm sorry, fucked up. Can we give this another chance? Like, you know what? Like, I get it if you don't want to be with me, but let's like see if we can. And we were together for 4, 5, 6, like 7 years, some shit like that.
A long time.
And she basically said no. I was just like, she started seeing this guy, and she was like, no. And at that point, I was devastated. I was like, fuck. So who am I? What drives me? Because it's not. At this point, it wasn't money, it wasn't anything. I was just like, what the hell am I doing? And I think that's at the time where I was just like, I got to get away and figure out who I am. Because at that point, I had no idea. I was just, every single moment I had was taken by this girl, where I didn't actually have moments to myself where I figured out who I was, what drove me, what passions I have, or anything. And I went to Florida for 2 years and started to figure that out. And I realized, like, there was things. And then by the time I went to the academy, I was getting older. I could start to feel my disease starting to take over my health. And I was just like, wow. Like, that was the other moment that was just like, wow. Like, before, I knew I had this terminal disease, but I didn't really physically feel it. But starting close to get my 30s, I could feel it. Not like it hindered me at any point, But I could start to feel that now. It's just like, wow, life, like, I'm not going to live to see 60. It's not happening. And that was a wake up moment too. And I was just like, yeah, I want to have purpose. I want to have a legacy of myself. And that's what I think the film that I wrote is kind of my legacy. And like, regardless if this gets made, like, this is a piece of myself that I left behind.
Yeah.
Learning from my experiences and having a terminal, having these relationships, regardless, it's kind of my thing. But those two moments, that moment, and then the moment, like, when I started my health, I could feel the difference in my health. And I was just like, okay, those really got me to know me better. What drove me.
That's I really appreciate all of those things that you said. I think that's man, we do have a philosopher here, don't we? No, I really appreciate and resonate with the things that you say. You definitely know how to hit home. I'll tell you that. I guess well, do you have anything, Felix? I have like one or two things left for Nick specifically, but
Yeah, Nick. I think, and thank you for bringing that up. I think are you comfortable sharing what that is, that your disease you mentioned, or we can leave it out, or?
Yeah, I have cystic fibrosis. And I had it. The progression of having that disease was weird for me because I was born with it. I didn't know what it was, and I'll tell you a little story about that. So, growing up, my parents told me like it wasn't a terminal disease, like I wasn't gonna die from it. So I had to take pills for digestion, and I was an athlete. Like I played sports and whatever, so I didn't really know where else it affected, especially when I was younger. And there was a moment in my life where I was like, it was my freshman year of high school, I believe it was. No, freshman or junior year, one of those two. And Sports Illustrated came out. Boomer Esiason's son, Gunnar Esiason, had cystic fibrosis. So Sports Illustrated this whole article about Boomer Esiason's son and Boomer dealing with a child that has cystic fibrosis. So I remember people used to ask me all the time when I would be like eating, like, why are you taking those pills? And I was like, I just need it for digestion. Like, I have cystic fibrosis, but it's not, I can't die from it. And people were like, oh, I don't know what the fuck that is. So I guess he's right. And Brian Dudley, I can still remember his name, read this Sports Illustrated. And he's like, Nick, isn't this what you have? I was just like, yeah, I have cystic fibrosis. He's like, it's terminal, right? I said, no, it's not. He said, yeah, it is. And I was like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, my parents told me it's not terminal. It's not terminal, dude. Like, I feel healthy, whatever. I read the article, and it floored me. And I went to my mom, and I was like, Mom, did you lie to me? And she was just like, we didn't lie to you. We just believed that this wasn't going to kill you, so that's we told you what we believe. And that I still remember that night. Like, I was on my bed crying, like, this is a terminal disease. But, like, I didn't feel it, It was something I read, but I didn't feel it. Like, I was still healthy. So, it was a wake-up call. It was emotional for me, but I got over it pretty quickly. And then, like, I just kind of moved on. It wasn't. So, when I was in my late 30s, my health started to really take a hit. I'm pretty sure, Andrew, you would hear me cough quite a bit at REI.
yeah, and we also talked about this too, but I want to hear more. Keep going. Yeah.
So, late 20s, I felt the difference, but still was like, okay, well, yeah. Late 30s, I felt a huge difference.
Right.
I was just like, this is not good. And then, so when I got closer to 40, and when you have CF, you're supposed to go to the doctor, the clinic. They call it 2 to 3 times a year, and that's if you're in decent condition, which I am. And they have you do this breathing test, which tells you your lung function, basically saying how much of your lungs are getting air, a percentage. Like it turns out it's called your FEV1, and it gives you a percentage of how much of your lungs are actually getting air. And I was late 30s, it was down to about, if I was feeling good that day, maybe high 50s,
Yes.
but average 55. That means almost half of my lungs aren't getting any air. And it was tough. Like I would go upstairs, going to the subway, and I would literally be so out of breath. I would sit on one of the subway cars, and because I was so lacking oxygen, I would pass out for literally like seconds. Like had no control. I'd be sitting there just pass out, and I'd wake up and like not realizing how much time passed or whatever, and like all of a sudden like I felt fine. It's the weirdest thing. It's like, so I'm like, oh, this is happening quite weird. And usually what happens is when in CF, once you get below 50%, they start talking about lung transplants. And this is the thing that about me. This is the thing that's in my script that I believe. I'm not here to live forever. Nobody is. I'm here to do something and to be happy with what I did in my life. And it's such a nobody wants to talk about it in the CF community. Nobody wants to. Everybody judges everybody. It's so weird. It's such a weird community. But like, I don't want a lung transplant. I don't. I never wanted one. I wasn't going to get one. I told my wife this is not happening. I would only want a lung transplant if I felt like there was something left in my life I needed to do. But not just for the fact of staying alive. Because that's something you have to come to terms with quite fast, having a terminal disease is like, is dealing with death. And what is it? And what is it to you? What do you believe? And whatever else. But like, I already knew, like, I'm not getting one, just not doing it. Now, getting married is a little different because then all of a sudden you're like, do I get a lung transplant for my wife so she doesn't hurt? She watches me die. It gets really like dark, but I wasn't gonna get a lung transplant. And I was just like, when it got to that time, I was gonna be like, no, give me oxygen until I die. Like, and at that point, I always thought I was gonna at least live to like 65, maybe 60, 65, because I was in good health. Based on what I was like at late 30s, I probably, if they didn't have this new drug, I probably would be dying around 55. 55 to 60, I can see myself dying. But, and in 2018, they had this miracle drug, and it literally was. My lung functions went from a 55 to an 80. And they've been at 80% ever since. And the thing within the CF community is like, we all had to come to terms with our own mortality. And then we deal with it, we come to terms with it, and then you take it away. And now it's a whole nother ballgame. I don't have retirement. Was never going to make it to retirement. So now I have to think about that, which I never had to think about. So it's just like, holy shit. They're like, if it's not one thing, it's another. But like, yeah, but what I learned having this disease will always stay with me. And I think that is some of the reason why I can't just let the art go. Because I need to have a purpose. It needs to make sense to me. And the art makes sense to me. Everything else in this world, other than like art, relationships, love, doesn't make sense to me. But that does.
Wow. Wow, Nikki. I would say that, Dan, dude, art is almost like your medicine. Not to sound cliche, but it's
Well,
It's
I can definitely relate. Art is a beautiful thing for some people. Yeah.
it's kind of like I don't know if I've heard many people say, and Andrew, I would like to hear what how you approach it, but art is kind of like going to like a therapist. It's our therapy, deal with the issues that we are. But the funny thing is, we don't have anybody talking back to us saying anything, but it is literally my therapy. That's how I get all of this stuff out because the issues that we all had is part of the human condition. That's what makes us interesting. And I don't know if it's healthy to make that part of your healing process is using art as a healing process or whatever. But I do that regardless. I don't know if it's the way you're supposed to do it, but I do. Yeah, I mean, let me ask you guys both this because this is the thing that I think really like I still haven't been able to convince myself. I guess that's what it is because I say to myself, "This is how I'm supposed to do," but saying something and feeling something are two different ends of the spectrum. Like you can say, "This is how I know I should do," but this is how I feel, and you can't always fight that and make yourself believe something else or feel something else based on what you know is to be right. But like, have you guys felt like you failed in certain parts of your life? That you
you
wanted to do something and you didn't do it. And why? Why do you feel like you failed? That's the hardest thing to come to
yeah.
grasps in myself is like there's things that I wanted to accomplish that I'm still fighting to do it. If I don't do it, if I don't, because there's no guarantee anything in life is done that way.
Mhm.
Am I a failure? And I feel like I am. I have to convince myself, like I'm trying to convince yourself you're not. But I think because you want it so badly and you believe you, I don't know, deserve it or it should happen that like if it doesn't, I fail. Like, do you guys feel that way about certain things? You know, I want to know Felix because this is beyond art. This is more
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like
Well,
there's things that we all believe like you
yeah.
should have accomplished or do.
Yeah, no,
Briefly,
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I'll jump in and yeah, of course I feel like a failure. I think like if you don't aspire to want something or be something or do something, um, failure is around the corner. You have to fail. I think failure isn't a bad thing. I think I'd be proud to say I failed dozens of times, man. Dozens of times.
But what is it? What is it that in that thing that made you like? What is it about that thing you tried that that identified it as a fail?
Sure.
Is my
So
question.
I'll reflect back on my early career. I started out as a journalist, graduated school with a degree in journalism, worked at a local news, and then worked at a newspaper, and I was loving it. I was in it. I was like telling stories, talking to people, motivated. I literally ate and breathed writing and talking to people and telling stories and trying to make a difference. And I came to a point where the election hit. You know, Trump was getting into power. His name was coming back up, and I just felt completely burned out. I was burned out. I couldn't. I didn't want to do it anymore. It changed. Like that passion, that fire, that desire I had wasn't there. And I told myself I need to step away. I gotta like. I don't know if it answers your question, but I just didn't feel that sense of fulfillment anymore. So you could say like I failed at being at a journalist at a certain point because I couldn't do it or I didn't want to do it anymore. But it was of my own decision. That was just that's actually when I joined REI. I felt I
Yeah,
was like
but
I was
like
so lonely.
that still doesn't. What did you fail at? Though? You still didn't answer that
Right.
question.
I failed at being this world-class journalist, winning a Peabody Award. I failed as a journalist, accomplishing all these accolades that I should have, and I didn't. I never got to it. I
But
was
see,
just a I was
that's
just
the
a normal town journalist with like maybe one or two stories featured, and that's it.
But that's the point. You still
Right.
got to be a journalist.
Yeah. And I think that's what's helped me move past it years later was that I did what I had to do. I did it and I loved it.
I read your article. I read articles that you written. You can write.
No, thank you.
Like,
And I enjoyed it.
it's so weird that we need to get to this. Like we
Right,
want
right,
to be and if we don't, we're a failure. And it's just like,
right.
no. Like
No.
it drives me nuts that like, and I feel the same way. And I don't like if this film that I'm doing that I like put up my whole heart into doesn't get made, I'm gonna feel like a huge failure. But
I think go on, go on.
I don't know why. Because I did everything I could. I left it all on the table. Like, but I think because you believe what you can do or what you can do in yourself, that if you can't get there, like you failed yourself. I don't know. It's so weird.
Andrew, do you want to answer or I'll jump in?
I think my sense of failures have happened more recently. I think they've been across the board, and that's probably because of well, I don't know, willful naivete or an unwillingness to address my own problems. I think that's a big thing, and that's putting that off is, I think, putting that off is what the failure was. And, sure, we can talk about why things are put off and whether there's value in putting that off. Sure, absolutely. And I'm working through that. But I think that the failure part was, oh, I had lived this long, basically 38 years. And it was at that point or this point, start of these feelings of failure 3 years ago or so, that that's what the failure felt like at the time. Like, oh, I'm on the back end of 30, and I thought I knew so well what I needed to do. But also that's kind of like the rebirth process too, right? So now, having a failure, sort of like a greater failure in life, just sort of like umbrella. Um, it's given me new perspective on uh, my artistic passions and the value that I hold for my personal relationships, just across the board. So in a way, I guess it's not a failure if you want to look at it that way too. But at the beginning, when it happened, it was a failure. I lost this whole film thing, and like school was kind of like I was like going around the whirlpool, and finally I pulled it all around, and the film is still limbo, and I was losing people in my personal circle left and right, probably because of my own self-sabotage. But now I look back at those things and I use them in a therapeutic way to step up a little more, to take more accountability, and to not give up on what I want to do, which is write and make art, and be with the people that are important to me in my life.
Angie, if I could add to that, I think, and I think it's coming full circle because I think you don't really fail until
Yeah,
you really stop and give up.
yeah,
I think,
that's true. I
like it
think
could be
so.
15, 20, 30 years in different iterations and different versions. Like, for example, like, I was a journalist. I loved writing, whatever. I stopped it for a long time. And now I'm back here in this new medium. I don't see it like as a failure because I'm still continuing and trying to get back to that storytelling of people and community, and maybe it's a different version. It's not the initial version that it was supposed to be, but I think for me, I find that motivator that if I stopped, then I think I would have failed. If I fully stopped, just
Yeah.
put my head down to the grind, do my 9 to 5, that's it, then I could say I failed at my dream. I failed at my vision. I failed at whatever I was trying to do, but I'm still clinging to it. Maybe not as firmly as you both, because you both are like artists, but I'm clinging to it in some way, in some version.
And you're not clinging to it. There's a part of you feel it. That's my point. You're
That's
not
true.
clinging to anything. My thing is like, dude, you made it. You did it. You did it. Like, dude, think about it. You had this idea of like putting together a podcast, and you did it. And you did it. Like, regardless of what happens or how many people listen to it or whatever, you still did it. Like, do you know how many people, if you talk to a lot of people that at least where I grew up, like, you know, most of them do the 9 to 5, go home, and that's it. Wake up, do the same thing over and over again. And it was like, I couldn't imagine doing that, you know, not because they couldn't do it, because half of it's because, you know, they just don't understand it. And half of it's because, like, you know, they don't see in the society's on financial gains. Like, they only see anything worth it if there's financial gains from it. But people don't understand, like, most of the best stuff that you get out of life is not from the financial gains. Because there's never enough. Like, if you're worth 10 million, you're just going to be like, well, I want to be worth 20 million. For 20 million, I want to be 100 million. Like, it's never enough if it's cash. But if it's other things more substantial to the person, you know, you can get there. And it's not that tough. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not as tough. You just got to want it and go for it. You know, but it's where we as individuals put at our own personal level as like, I'll do this, but it's a success when it's there, and it's a failure if it doesn't get there. You know what I'm saying? Like, for you, Felix, it would be a success if I was just like, if I worked for the Washington Post and was just like, you know, this huge writer. And if it's not, then I'm a failure. But it's just like, no, dude, you did it. In some level, you still did it. You know, it's that weird thing that I think we'll never, I think that's just the human condition. Like, I don't know if it's a societal thing, or it's just our own desires, dreams, wants. And the funny thing is, I always ask, like, go back, you know, 100 years or whatever, or my grandparents. I mean, their desires and their dreams were very simple. You know, to get a house, to have a family, just put food on the goddamn table. Like, it's so weird now that, like, we in our society have these larger, grandiose, you know, dreams of doing things, when back, you know, 200 years or whatever it was real simple and basic. Put food on the table, clothing on your back, and we made it.
Felix, do you have anything else for this? Because I still have those questions that I'm sitting on here.
Shoot away. No
Okay.
pun
Well,
intended,
you know,
but,
in the interest
for the time.
of time, and I'll just say this: talking to our special guest, Nicholas, Nicky, Crazy Nick. You know, you are a talented actor, and I really am glad to be your friend, and I'm glad that you got on this podcast and you made this wild thing with us today. And in honor of that, during this whole time that we've been on this, I realized that maybe some questions that can be asked of you are some of the same questions that have been asked of inside the actor's studio. So,
Well,
with that
I
said,
thought you were going to tell me, like, the whole time we were talking, you didn't record a thing. Oh, God. I ain't doing this again.
Second take.
so I guess my first question is, tell me a movie that you hate.
Uh, shit, specific movie. Fucking Marvel. Every Marvel movie.
Okay.
Every fucking,
Okay.
especially the Marvel. Every Marvel movie. I hate, despise. Fast and Furious. Fucking can't stand all.
Okay. What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Okay. And just a couple more. Is there a sound or a thing that really just, I don't know, just brings you to the present in your life? Is there something that really just sort of like snap and you're right there? It just makes you feel like you're so alive, you're glowing, you're right there in the moment.
Um,
Doesn't have to be a sound, but I'm just curious.
yeah, I would have to say, um, I don't know if it's a sound. Outside, absolute quiet, or just wind when you're outside. Just like no sounds other than just like wind or absolute quiet, or just sounds of nature when you're outside. Like, yeah.
Okay. And then finally I just gotta ask you, you got like a few favorite filmmakers?
Tarantino. I love Tarantino. The Guy Ritchie and Tarantino, I think, have the best dialogue, or like nobody the dialogue they've been to. I couldn't even imagine. And most people aren't. Most people when they write are dialogue is the one thing that like they're great storytellers, great this, great story, but dialogue is tough, and they do it tremendously. Spielberg captures. If you notice, all of his films are about small group of people doing something bigger than themselves. This enormity of life, but gets to keep that enormity of like this world and keep it in a small. So he's a genius in doing that. Who else? Linklater. I love him. He can do the human connection, funny, dramatic, brilliant. For my filmmakers, yeah, that's it. My favorite actor of all time has to be Ethan Hawke. Saw him live. Saw him do True West. That dude is an absolute genius.
You saw him do were we at the same show? Because I saw him do True West when
With
he was
Paul
on True.
Dano?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. My
Yeah,
wife
man.
got me tickets, and I saw it, and I was just like, "This dude is like, this dude is on another level," which I couldn't. I wish I would aspire to as an actor,
All those
as an
beer
artist.
cans. All those beer cans, dude. All those beer cans.
I always wonder, like, so on the short that I did, the other guy was just like, "I'm not drinking. I'm gonna." I think he took. I think I had Miller High Life. He dumped it, put kombucha in there because it looked like. I'm like, dude, I'm straight on drinking the whole time. Which is like can be a no because it wasn't there a story of some dude who drank and then got totally loaded and like, oh no, the my actor Brandon was telling me a story that he did a short film, where the lead actress was drinking the whole time, and by the time like they were on, like she forgot the line, she was annihilated. And I was just like, oh Jesus. But I've always, in every single one of my films, if there's beer, I'm drinking. I stand for that.
Well, I got a suggestion just for you. If you haven't seen him, he's brilliant, and you remind me of him in a big way. John Cassavetes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. Then we don't need to say any more about that. Do you have anything else, Felix?
I want to add one of those Jane Lipton's questions.
Okay,
Just
great.
one more.
Good.
It's a little cheesy one, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask.
Yes.
What do you hope your legacy will be?
Ooh.
Which my what?
What do you hope your legacy will be?
My legacy? Again, what we kind of like I have for people to see me and what I had to offer based on my struggles is kind of what we all kind of want. People to see who we are as people, as individuals, like and what we offer to whether it be, you know, our vulnerability, our art, whether it be our, you know, openness or whatever it is. It's like, I think, you know, to just really be seen and heard and all that stuff. It's bullshit. I feel like it's kind of the same thing that we all say, where it's just like, so it's kind of like a memoir of what I learned living this life and going through what I do. And maybe if somebody saw it, they could be like, wow, I can relate. And maybe what he did or what he said or what I saw can help me get, you know, figure it out myself. You know, I don't know, something like that. That sense. It's just weird. I don't know.
No,
That's
this
a
is
weird
not
fucking
cool.
question. Why you ask these stupid questions like that?
I gotta get you flustered. I gotta get you all flustered and red, dude.
I am. Okay, head back at you, both of you guys, and say like within a year or so, what is it that you guys want to do?
Do you,
That the next thing that you guys want to do? What are you trying to move forward in and accomplish, or do something that you're like, okay, this is the next thing I want to do for myself that makes sense to me?
You want me to
you want
go?
me to go, or you want to go, Felix?
Both of you.
You go. You go. Andrew, you go. You go.
Okay, okay. So I hope to have at least 100 pages for my novel, which I do have, called Marlena Dietrich's Bashful Beau. I hope to have at least gotten more footage for that film that I have dropped. And maybe feel a little more secure in my life in terms of not just sort of like not getting a bare minimum paycheck, going for something a little more, just to keep going further and bigger. Felix.
All right.
I guess within the next year or so, I think for me would be to continue doing this, to continue producing and telling stories of people that I think are important and matter and have really good stories to tell, and in the process that a community could be built around this, that others could seek some help or refuge. I think if I can be a part of that a year from now and see that people resonate with what the stories we're telling and the people we're bringing on, I'd feel really good about that, I think. Yeah.
So, you know, before we end, there's one thing that because both of you guys told me that, the one thing I found that really makes a difference is when somebody does hear you and listen to you and support you. So I suggest we all try to help whatever which way we can each other, try to get to where we want to be. Because that support and that understanding and that being able to see like this is important to you, and if I can help you get to this and accomplish whatever small thing this is, it's a huge win. So I'm here for you guys, whatever you guys need.
Awesome, man.
Andrew,
Likewise, Nick.
I'm here for you, Felix. Whatever you need, buddy. I'm here.
Oh,
Damn,
shit.
tells her right next to him.
Good stuff. No,
Andrew,
this is, oh, God. So good.
Nick, real quick, can you plug some of your production companies or
Yeah,
your website,
yeah.
anything that you'd like to, where folks can find you, reach out to you, and learn a little bit more about you?
Cinema Veritas Productions.com. I think we have there, has all of our links to our web series, which we did, which we're going to try to do the next two more episodes next year. Was Hunter, Hunter. And it has, I'm eventually going to put up the short there because it did its film festival run, so I have to put it up there. And just keep involved in what's going on. Nicholas Ferracamo at Weebly.com is my actor's website. So if you want to know what I'm doing, like as in like individually as an actor, you want that and figure that out. You can also find us on Instagram, which I might the Cinema Veritas. I think it's Cinema Veritas NYC. At Cinema Veritas NYC, but I will send it to you. I totally forgot to get that to you. I'm not too much of an Instagrammer. I'm old school. My wife works on our Instagram, but I watch it and keep track of it. So like that's another way we post a lot whenever we like do something on that. Yeah, and I think that's about in Cinema Veritas Productions. I think we have a Facebook page as well too, which I haven't been able to because usually on those both of those I only post when like we do something, a film gets made, or we get into a film festival, or we were doing something. Where I don't post too much about it if we're just pushing.
And how can folks support? I'm sure some folks are interested in supporting some way or another.
You know, follow us on like I said, I'll give you the Instagram link quick here too. It would follow us because like if we do any like crowd fundraising for stuff, we'll post that. Because really for like especially like shorts or the web series, we're probably going to do a crowd fundraising. I mean, we'll probably do a crowd fundraising for the feature as well to get us to where like the finish line. Because the crowd fundraising, I did so much research on that, and I know like usually asking for more than 20, you're not going to really be successful. It's tough unless you have like a celebrity or something promoting it. It's really tough. So but it's fine for doing web series or a short film. You can usually get $10,000, no problem. Like I said, our feature will probably do like finishing stuff like editing or post. Do a $20,000 thing for post. So, probably our Instagram, our social medias are probably the best way to follow us. And I think we have the link also on our website. So even if you can't, you can go on our website and click on the link to our Instagram and to our Instagram.
Nick, again, thank you so much for gracing us with your appearance, the conversation.
So my next question is
go
eventually we're gonna do this live, like all three of us, like in the same.
Oh yeah. That's
yes.
You're coming back, dude. I have the setup and everything. We're doing it live.
Oh
let's
God,
do it.
it'll be and it'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think we should like make it interesting.
That would
a way to make it interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I still have the pictures of us when we went out that one time. We were we took us to that weird ass bar. We like that stuffed fox or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Lower East Side or something.
That was a Chinatown, Lower
and
East
I was
Side.
dancing.
I
was dancing. Yeah.
It's called
That was
Home Sweet Home.
Nice.
That was a good night. I'm glad you guys, reached out, and I wish you guys. I love talking with you guys. You're my yin and yang.
Maybe we can hook you back in later on for another episode. Think about it.
I will be 100% like if I'm in New York, I'm coming to the studio and I can sit right next to Felix, so that way I can be through.
Oh God.
Feel his breath on my neck, because that's what I really want.
This is good. All right, man. Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys are great. I love you guys.